In today's episode of the Health Collective podcast, we are joined by Chaya Peltz, a business coach and entrepreneur. Now, Chaya went from working in the corporate world to starting up her own business and going from employee to solo owner. This is a massive step that anyone takes, and this is what she helps other people do in their own lives. Some of the key points that we're talking about today are finding balance in your business and your life. A lot of people maybe going into business think that it's going to give them more freedom, but end up with less. So how can you make sure that you have not only a profitable business, but actually time to enjoy it as well? So if you're at any stage in business, starting out, thinking about it, or you're already through many seasons of life when it comes to your growth and expansion, and you're just looking to continue that, then this episode is just for you. Now, if you're also looking for help in your health, fitness, weight loss, or body transformation, or maybe that business is taking so much of your time that you don't have time for your body anymore, then make sure you get in touch with the health and fitness coach. We work with women over 40 who have no time, no energy for themselves because it's all given away to work, career, business, job, family, kids, the works. Now, if that's you and you want to shift the middle-age spread and you want to create a toned, lean physique, increase your energy, increase your productivity, and increase your body acceptance and sex appeal, then make sure you get in touch. Either head to the website, which is thehealthandfitnesscoach.com. You can email us, which is Rita, R-I-T-A, at thehealthandfitnesscoach.co.uk, or follow us on socials. Instagram is the.health.and.fitness.coach. You can head to Facebook and search for Rita Trotter, or you can follow us on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to the Health and Fitness Coach. And in the meantime, really enjoy the episode. Sit back, have a cuppa, and I'll see you on the next one. So, Chaya, it's fantastic to have you on the show today. And where I'd really love to start is just understanding a bit of you, your background, and what led you to the place that you are today. So you are a keen coach in the world of entrepreneurship and business. And I always find that people in those positions usually have their own story that led them to this point. So could you share a little bit about yours and what led you here?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to meet you finally. And my story is that when I was young, I just dreamed about going into corporate. And I made sure to make that happen. And I did. And I loved it. And I climbed the corporate ladder and I learned a lot. And it was really great fun until it wasn't. And the corporate environment changed a lot. And the company that I joined was a very family-oriented company. It was Fortune 500, it was Merrill Lynch, and it was very family-oriented. And what I mean by that is you felt like you were part of the family, of your group, of your organization. But as time progressed and the market started to change and there was crashes in the market and we got sold, there was different energies or different influences that came in, and it sort of shifted the culture of the company. Similar to what I hear other big firms on the street were having. And it made it not as much fun to work there. And while I was growing, I was realizing that I really wanted to help people in a bigger way. And I was helping an organization that was great because I learned so much about myself, about my communication, about leadership. But I was helping an organization because the thought came to me that people in the organization can be let go any moment. And I saw friends of mine who had families and they were just really concerned and worried and striving, like they were let go and they had to feed their families. And it sort of bothered me that that was the case. And I realized that I wanted to help, first of all, my own journey side by side was one of self-discovery. So I was always looking to learn more about myself, be introspective, and I was a natural coach type of person. My friends would always come to me for advice. And a friend of mine said, well, if you're always giving people advice, why don't you kind of become officially a coach? And so I thought that was a great idea because I was partially thinking of leaving corporate. And so I went to an intensive training and coach training, and it was really wonderful because I learned about how to give advice in a really effective way in terms of not giving advice, but helping people find their truth within themselves, because each person is unique, each person is different. So I started to follow that path, that entrepreneurial path. And then I realized that people who are in corporate who want to leave, they're going to need more than just coaching in terms of how to make their own life better, but also to establish something that they can create for themselves. They can create their own economy if they pursue their own dreams of becoming an entrepreneur. And so I further continued my learning and studying to become a business coach. And I'm just so excited to help people to like build something that is their legacy, build something that is their passion, help them find their passion, create their passion, and live life on their terms.
So a lot of what you said there was, passion, life on these terms. I completely resonate with that. But equally, there's probably a lot of business owners listening to this going, well, I started my business and I spend more hours working than I used to, and I have less balance than I used to. And all of this passion and living with joy, well, I'm not seeing it. So what do you see on a regular basis are some of the pitfalls that people fall into when they are either starting out or continuing to develop a business when it comes to balance, time management, and actually enjoying it?
Absolutely. I see that all the time. I myself went through that phase where it's just so overwhelming because you're starting something new, you're starting a new venture, and there's so much information out there and you don't know where to turn, and there's so many shiny objects, and you want to be on top of everything that's current. The things are changing so quickly, and you want the new, the new trend or the new social media or the new technological app, that you want to be a part of is always coming at you. So it's a lot of things that you need to pay attention to and shift in order to regain your balance. So one of them is to focus on what you need to focus to move you forward, and put the blinders on for all the shiny objects. Because when you're starting to build your business, you want to sort of build that foundation first. You want to make sure you're clear, you have clarity on your niche and your branding. You want to make sure that you design your signature system, which is going to take you from how do you bring your client from A to Z, from entry point to results. And you want to get all of that clear and let everything else just be put to the side while you clear all of that. And obviously you want to do your marketing and all of those things as well. So number one is put on your blinders until you make sure that you get clear. Number two is learn how to calendar. That is critical. And I learned this because I was feeling overwhelmed myself, because I'm like, I have to do this, I have to do that. And so I learned that successful entrepreneurs, when they learn how to calendar correctly and properly, then the calendar rules them, and they follow the calendar. And it seems counterintuitive. It seems like, oh, I don't want to listen to something outside of me. But in fact, it's liberating, because when you're structuring your calendar correctly, where you put all of your time that is non-negotiable in first, and then you schedule what is important that I need to do that if I don't do it, the needle doesn't move, and you schedule those times and you follow the calendar. It's a very liberating experience, and it gives you actually more time. And the third thing is important, that is like critically important, is delegating, because you want to be doing only the things that is of your zone of genius, that you are great at and that you are here to share. Because if you're doing all these little minute tasks, they take up a lot of time, and then you're not present for what you need to deliver. So delegating all the tasks that are not requiring your zone of genius and your delivery and front facing with the client.
Absolutely. Is how I would put it, as it's who, not how. People spend so long trying to figure out how to do things, and it might take them a week, a month, a year, rather than just saying, right, who could do this for me, who has the skill set in 5 minutes or less. So no, I completely agree with delegation. What I would ask on that note, however, is, because I can hear some of the audience and their thoughts coming through, would be, well, that's fine if I've got the money to delegate. Now, businesses go through different seasons. They go through infancy, toddler, teenage, adult. And you would hope by the time that you're in teenagehood, you know, you're growing rapidly, you've got good cash flow. But at the beginning, you know, in that infancy stage, cash flow isn't always available. And it's, you know, you do need to, unless you're going to bargain doing someone's laundry for them, you know, kudos if you can work that out. How would you advise someone who's in that infancy stage where cash flow is minimal? How would you advise them to be able to delegate if they're sort of sitting there afraid to spend the money on doing so?
That's a great question. Great question. I love that question. And it's a really important question because everyone goes through that. So a couple things is that initially you want to start slow, because you can't service so many people until you get your ducks in a row, right? So you want to start slow, but if you, depending on what your service is, if it's a service that you can do private coaching, then you can do one-on-one coaching. Then you can actually, because one-on-one coaching is an elevated price point. So that will start to give you some infusion of cash to get started. And as you're getting that infusion of cash, you're not only helping yourself to reinvest that into the business so that you have now the money to purchase more things that you need for support. For example, a VA would be helpful, but you're also learning from the one-on-one, you're learning actually more special pointers or tidbits that you need to infuse in your service, because as you're communicating one-on-one, you're learning like all these little nuggets that are helpful and that just kind of come out of you naturally. And you're like, hey, you know, other people might benefit from that. So depending on what type of business that you have, like if you have a business that you want to create, for example, a course, a self-study course with coaching, for example. So the self-study course, you want to wait until you had that one-on-one with clients so that you know all the things that they need and you can infuse that into your program. So that is number one. Number two is VAs are inexpensive. And so in the beginning, because you can't do everything yourself, hiring a VA, they're really minimal price to get started, and that will help you delegate the initial things. So a combination of those, and also, like you said, I mean, you can do laundry for people too, or barter. Some people do barter. There's like different thoughts about that. Some people say definitely barter. Some people say don't barter. And I've heard both sides of it. One side is, hey, I don't have the money. I need this service. You need that service. It's a great way to collaborate. And so that is beautiful. And the other side that I've heard was, it's important to transfer money back and forth. So I'll pay you and you'll pay me, from a spiritual perspective or energetic perspective. And also, one more thing, when you invest in yourself, then it comes back to you, and it also seems counterintuitive. How can I spend the money that I don't have? But sometimes, I know I had to do this because I wanted to improve my mindset around entrepreneurship, because I never was in entrepreneurship before. And I was in the same boat. How do I do that if I don't have the money? They're very expensive. And I had to find a way to find the money, because when I invested in myself, then I learned what I needed to create more abundance in my company, in attracting clients, and then the ROI comes in. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And, there was two things that you sort of hit upon there, which I think is quite interesting, which is the spirituality of business, because business money is an exchange of energy, and it's about the energy that you bring to any situation, which I think, was a really nice way of talking about it, that spiritual side. Equally, it was, you kind of insinuated that sometimes it is about prioritizing as well, which is something that I want to pick up on, because a lot of people go into business as the initial standpoint because, oh, I'll have freedom. Oh, I can sit on a beach and earn hundreds of thousands a month and drink pina coladas, because we have a bombardment now of influencers on social media telling us, come and buy my course and I'll teach you how to do just that. But business requires huge amounts of self-discipline and huge amounts of prioritization of time. So what did you find when you were starting the most challenging aspects of having that self-discipline and choosing what was a priority and what wasn't?
It's interesting that you asked that, because I definitely went through that. I had come into entrepreneurship not understanding that you need a huge mindset shift to switch. It's like a paradigm shift. You are actually a new person. Coming from an employee mindset is completely different than becoming an entrepreneur, because when you're an entrepreneur, you have to have risk. You have to have certain qualities, and you have to shift to learn about how to have those qualities. For example, ownership and responsibility. When you're an employee, you don't have to be concerned about that. But entrepreneurs have to have a strong sense of ownership of their own ventures, and they have to take full responsibility for their successes and their failures, right? While employees, they can rely on their employees to provide guidance and direction. You have to be your own problem solver. Entrepreneurs are very proactive problem solvers, right? They actively seek opportunities and they create innovative solutions. Employees often focus on following instructions and solving problems within the scope of their assigned tasks. Risk tolerance is another thing, because people view entrepreneurship as high risk, but in fact, and it's true, once you become a successful entrepreneur, you're typically more comfortable with taking risks and embracing uncertainty, but it's never just blind faith. It's always a calculated risk. But employee mindset is more, they tend to prefer stability and predictability, right? So for me, I had to really have a major mindset shift and step into the new me, who is an entrepreneur, and understand that, well, I needed to embrace a growth mindset that thrives on challenges and sees failures as learning opportunities, right? We need to also develop resilience and adaptability and a willingness to take calculated risks. Belief in yourself, the confidence, and having the mentorship of a mindset coach who's going to help you to overcome any obstacles that come in your way, because every single human being goes through those obstacles of self-belief and confidence, or lack thereof, correct? So another thing is about learning continuously. Like, you want to be someone who's constantly striving to stay updated on the trends and acquire new skills. Obviously, like I said before, after you built your foundation, correct? And you want to have an action-oriented mindset to take initiative and be willing to step out of your comfort zone. So I'm not sure if I answered your question. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's true that as you become more developed in your own mental acuity when it comes to being an entrepreneur, that is a different way of thinking, that you do get more comfortable with how to prioritize, or prioritizing what might seem like a riskier idea. Whereas at the beginning, it's, well, how do I prioritize saving? And as your company grows, well, how do I prioritize spending in the right way? So there are huge different shifts. And if we talk specifically about women as entrepreneurs, and not that I think that men have it any easier than women, but women tend to, when you've got a two-person household, you know, a male and a female, and in this particular example, they have kids and they're both entrepreneurs. I don't need to spell it out who's looking after the kids, who's doing the school runs, who's making sure the lunches are packed. In that situation, women are almost working two jobs. They've got their family job and their actual business. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges that women face when they are going through that stage? And what are the biggest things that they can do to shift that balance?
So I sort of want to connect this answer to your previous question about prioritization. And there's no doubt this is a very challenging thing, especially for women, because we're very nurturing, we're very motherly, we want to be there for the children, we want to support them, we want to make sure that not only that we're creating this legacy for them and following our own passions, but we want to make sure that they're going to have the right guidance growing up and that they're going to be inspired by us, right, to create their own, to follow their passions and create what they desire to create. So prioritization is a key piece, and calendaring, like I said before, but prioritization in your business is to prioritize what is going to move the needle. So when we're doing, because I find myself doing that, I was like, I'm doing a task and I'm like, this is not helping me move the needle. So I'm, as the CEO or the founder, or I want to make sure that that is the tasks that I am doing. So it's moving the needle and it's client front facing with the client. So those are my key things. So making sure that if it's social media that I need to make sure is happening, I'm posting on social media, of course, that is critically important because that's how you're getting your name out there. Some people who can afford to later on can hire a copywriter, but initially I think it's important that you do your own, because you're sort of like connecting with the beauty of what you're sharing, and it's coming from inside of you, and it's really like emanating your essence, your energy, your spiritual stuff, for lack of a better word. And so, and it's also, for me, what happened was when I started doing it, I was like, oh, it felt so overwhelming. I was like, I don't want to be doing that. But when I started to do it, I started to like enjoy it. I started to love it. And I was like, oh, I'm sharing something that I think people would enjoy or find interesting, or they could learn something from it, right? So a little off the topic, but the thing is that, and then my key point is that I'm coaching clients. I'm facing off with the clients. I'm helping them with learning their strategies. I'm helping them with their mindset. And that is my key objective. And so making sure that what your tasks are really your zone of genius, you're moving the needle, and you want to delegate everything else. And like I said, so if you do that, in the beginning, it's going to be a lot of you, and you're going to have to wear multiple hats if you're not having the finances to delegate. But if you can slowly, as you bring in a client, you get a VA. As you bring in a client, you get a little bit more help, an assistant. So it's prioritizing your tasks, prioritizing your calendar, following your calendar, and making sure that you structure family time before you are putting in anything else about your work, and making that a non-negotiable.
Absolutely. I think one of the things, I hope that my audience know that I like to be honest with people rather than painting the rosy, perfect picture, whether it's business or health or wealth or anything, that sometimes there are moments where you are going to struggle, but struggle now for the benefit of you down the line. If you can put in the discipline and the structure and the late nights today, then you're doing it so that that future you can enjoy and reap the reward. So sometimes, we do want to just make people aware, if you're listening to this going into business, it isn't all, using AI to write the perfect social media post and see £1 million rolling in. It's not how it works. So what I'd love to sort of finish up with is, I know we've spoken about businesses at different seasons, but let's talk about the very first season, the birth of the business. That's where I'd like to sort of end today's episode. If someone's got this idea, they're sitting at home going, I've got this passion, I've got this thing that I'm amazing at and I want to share it. What would you say are some of the key first steps that people should take to starting to grow that idea into a fledgling business?
That's great. And just if I'm hearing to echo your last thing that you said in the and part of this answer is that in the beginning stages, it does feel overwhelming. It does feel like, oh my goodness, I'm doing everything myself. And like you said earlier, on social media, everyone's making it look like it's just so easy. And it's so like, I'm just sipping Mai Tais on the beach. And in the beginning of stages, it's not like that. So you need to know that if you're going to step into entrepreneurship, you need to know the beginning. Nobody has gotten to that place without putting the work in first. They don't display that because it's not sexy. So they don't put that on social media. I'm staying up till 3 a.m, working hard. Nobody's putting that on social media because they want you to know the results. They want you to know what you can achieve. So if that's something that that's not you, like you can't step into that. Although I do think that most people who think they can't really can. But if you know that you're not willing to step into the possibility for yourself, then entrepreneurship is not for you, because the beginning is challenging. It is hard. You're wearing all the hats until you're able to delegate out. So 100% to keep that in mind. So when you're starting out, the key important things that you want to know is a combination of strategy. Strategy is the timeless principles that I need to implement just when I get started, because many people throw gum against the wall. I don't know if that's a term in your country, but we have that here, like, oh, I'm going to just do this and I'm going to just do that. And they just let people know, oh, I have this and that, but they don't have their structure. They didn't clarify their niche. They didn't clarify their branding. They didn't create their signature system. They didn't do money mindset coaching to help them overcome those things. And so when someone comes into my program, that's the first thing I take them to. I take them through building their foundation for their business and put the blinders on, focus, make sure that you're clear, that you know what you're offering, and not only that you know what you're offering, that people outside are looking for that. Sometimes we have an idea and we say, oh, I want to sell this, but nobody wants that. They want something a little different. So learning how to find all of that out, making sure that you have a strong foundation, just like a house. When you build it, if you don't have a strong foundation, it's going to collapse. So making sure of that. The second piece, which I think should be the first piece, is mindset, which I make sure to sprinkle throughout my program, because it's not just one thing. Mindset is something that keeps coming up as you're growing. And when you're growing a business, you're growing your personal, because things are going to come up that you need to face, and you're going to have to face those things in order to overcome. And when you're willing to do that, the possibilities are endless, because you open up so much more expansion for yourself. And the third piece would be conviction that you want to do this because, and doing something that you love, because on the days that are going to be rough, even after you get through that initial hurdle and you start to delegate and you start to have rhythm in your program, in your company, you're going to have days that are going to be challenging. So when you have that passion for what you're really building and you have the conviction, then anything is possible. You can overcome it all.
What a fantastic note to leave today's show on. If you have conviction and you have self-belief and you have a why, you know, you have an actual reason that you're doing this, because, you know, like you said, no one is working at 3 a.m. because they enjoy it. They're doing it because they are so focused on their why, it keeps them going. So I think that was a brilliant note to leave on. And that just leads me to, first of all, say a massive thank you to Chaya. And can you just explain for the audience listening what that name means? Because I think it's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's just been so wonderful sharing this with you and for you inviting me. So my name is Chaya. And it's, if you ever heard of the term l'chaim, to life, like when people do cheers, it's the same word it's just the Hebrew female version of that word. What l'chaim is a Hebrew word and it means life. And Chaya is the female name for Chaim, which would be the male name for it. And so it means life. And even though no one could say it, I love it because of the meaning. And that's why I don't change it.
Absolutely. No, I think Chaya is a beautiful name. And I loved it when you told me that it means life, because what better name to give your daughter when they're born. So it's been absolutely fantastic chatting with you. For those who are listening, all of Chaya's details will be in the description. So if you want to reach out for any help in your own business, whether it's starting up or continuing that business into the next season of life, all of her contacts will be in there for you. So please make sure that you check it out. And in the meantime, that also leaves me to thank all of you for listening. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. And I really look forward to seeing you all on the next one. So we'll see you then.